Hi and welcome. My name is Johan and this is
Mikael.
And we are here to present the highlights of 2016. It's simply come to that part of the year again.
Yes, the ending of 2016. And 2016 started pretty funny. It did start with an existing version of Windows 10, 15.11, and a working version of Configuration Manager, namely 15.11. We didn't have a lot of issues at that time, actually.
It was pretty stable. Even the current branch release was pretty okay.
We also got the technical preview number 4, Windows Server 2016, which from my perspective, is hey, it's actually starting working. So we did some test deployments and some piloting, and we started playing around with it. It did have a lot of features. It wasn't perfect, but it's a technical
I remember you liked it a lot, but I started to play around with the virtual TPM chip stuff that I've been so excited about.
Yes.
Didn't work too well.
No, but I did play with the NAT switches. In that case, it actually did work.
Yeah.
So for the first time, you can build a lab environment on your laptop and go like, hey, I don't need AROS or routing or remote access. I don't need to have a Linux machine, stuff like that. So that was pretty fun.
That was pretty cool.
We also did release a book.
Yeah, our Volume 6, Deploying Windows 10 using MBT book, was released on January 1st.
You remember what we did the day after we were done with Deployment Fundamentals Volume 6?
Yeah, we started to, of course, write a new one. It's still in progress. It's been a long year, but we started at least.
It's Deployment Fundamentals Volume 7, and we will eventually tell you what that is all about.
So shall we do like everybody else, skip 7 and go to 10 directly?
Well, we can do that, absolutely. Or we can do a 6.1 or something like that.
Yeah.
No. I know that you did write a really cool blog post.
Yeah, it's quite funny what we are doing in this presentation, also giving you highlights of the most popular blog posts that we have been presenting or writing over the year.
Yeah.
And for January, it was an odd one. It was back to basics, how you build a Windows 7 reference image, and that has some 30,000 reads now.
Yes, and it's really good, and I used it myself actually. It is a good blog post on how to build a reference image, because in the beginning of Windows 7, building a reference image was pretty darn easy. It's like you have the image, you have a few patches, you install the application, you're done, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's not really the same thing, because you need to also update the driver framework, you need to update .NET framework, you need to update PowerShell and Windows Management.
But in the same topic, you also had a blog post, I remember, from basically making sure the image is a little bit smaller than it can be otherwise.
It's how to shave off the extra megabyte or gigabyte, and I know that you told me, is that really going to shave off something? And I said, yeah, it's going to be. How much? I don't know, it's just, it's getting smaller. And I know that you sent me an email back, and it's going to, and then you stated, well, for a Windows 7 image, it's going to shave off approximately a gigabyte of disk space. So yeah, it's good. It's good. We should do that. And that is still one of the most popular blog posts.
Some of us did shave today.
Well, I'm not. The blog post is named "Get Rid of All the Junk Before Sysprep."
Yeah. Do you think it works on this too?
No, it doesn't, because it's scriptable. So it's just doing bits and bytes. And it doesn't work for me either, and I have a really fat image. I'm so sorry about that. I also did a road trip.
You did, so 2016.
So 2016, and that was fun. And that was the first time I did a road trip and a road show on an operating system when everybody was like, we like this. We like this so much better than 2012 R2. And it's like, is there any particular part? No, we just love everything about it. So everybody was positive about 2016. That was fun.
I remember I went also to Dallas in late January 2016 for, unfortunately, the last System Center Universe conference.
Ever. Yes.
They are now being rebranded into Experts Live throughout the galaxy, or at least around this planet of ours.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a good conference. I'm going to miss it.
So then we shift into the next cold month, which is the February month, right?
Oh yeah, February. Yes,
okay.
Indeed. What happened in February?
Okay, what did happen? Well, Okay, so here's a couple of cool things that really did. We did a summit in Sweden. It was the
conference,
a conference. So we decided to do 3 of them. And this was the first part, and it basically just did Windows Server 2016. And I think, if I remember correctly, it was one of those. We were running everything on TP3, and TP4 was out. It was like, hey, we need to upgrade the entire demo environment for TP4. And that was done the night before we did the summit.
As you do.
As you usually do.
Yeah.
We also went to NIC in Norway.
Yeah, the Nordic Infrastructure
Conference.
Yeah.
NIC-Conf. And that is a really good conference, at least for us in Europe. Basically, Sweden, Norway, Finland, and a couple of other countries summon up in Norway to do that. We did one session together.
We did. It was how to build the perfect lab at home. So we brought some different gears. You brought your Pelican suitcase with like 6 different Intel NUC devices in it.
Yes.
Andreas bought his, was it a Supermicro he had?
Yeah, it was a Supermicro, a really cool one. And I know that you demoed the hydration kit.
Yeah, I brought my laptop.
Yes.
That's my lab.
And we also did a couple of blog posts, and one of them is a blog post that, for some particular reason, that was very popular that month. I have no idea why, but it is a blog post that is named Back to Basic Understanding Custom Settings.ini. It is still one of the most popular blog posts I ever written.
So you have tens of thousands of views of a blog post on how to edit a text file.
Yes. So the next time, I think I'm going to write a blog post about how to, do stuff in Notepad. But the fun thing is that when it comes to custom settings.ini, if you do really understand how it works, it can perform magic.
Yeah.
It's really one of those. You either get it or you don't. And when you do get it, you can see the smile on the face of everyone that is actually using it. Like, hey, this is marvelous.
Yeah, I can reduce the number of sequences and just be dynamic in my deployments.
And you did a blog post that was also popular, and that's another good thing you can do. You did the adding CM trays to your Microsoft Light Touch boot image.
Yeah, my personal view of everything right now is that CM trays should be in Windows, should be in Windows P by default, so you always can read the log files.
You're going to be so happy when I tell you this. You know that I'm having another version of the hydration kit.
Yeah.
A PowerShell-based hydration kit, which is now in version 10, almost released, and we made a decision. It's going to be log file based. So instead of printing everything to the screen, it's going to print just to a log file.
And you're adding CM trays.
In CM trays format.
That's very shiny.
It's just for you.
Yeah.
It's just for you.
Thank you. I'm touched.
Yes.
It feels good.
Yeah. It's going to be cool. So that was February.
Yeah. And then we have March.
Okay, what did we do then?
I went to Norway again, but for a completely different thing. I went once again to Gathering.
Yes, that's one of your hobbies.
Yeah, it's a LAN party.
Yeah.
5,000 geeks ending up over Easter to play games. So I was doing volunteer work, helping out with the party.
Which usually means you do blogging, you do photos, you do videos. You didn't do that this time?
I was the assigned audio-video technician behind the main stage.
Okay, so you're an audio-video... You're a cable guy.
I was a cable guy, totally a cable guy. That was fun.
Okay. We also did blog posts. One of the ones... one post that was highlighted that month was the how to export drivers using PowerShell.
Yes.
And that's a neat trick.
It is.
You can do it in 8.1 from the whatever update that was in the April update, or 2012 or 2. But it's a very cheating way. So here's a machine, you bought it, you fire it up, it runs perfectly fine, all the drivers are working, and you use the export drivers PowerShell command, which exports everything that is not...
Export Windows drivers.
Yes, export Windows drivers. It's going to grab all the Windows drivers, including the printer drivers, but they are easy to find because they're named PRN. So you remove them, and then you hey, here's drivers. Can you import them in Configuration Manager?
Yeah.
Yes, you can. In Light Touch, absolutely. So
it has been a quite convenient way to get drivers. If you already buy a system that comes with Windows 10 already, that is working, why not borrow the drivers from it.
You also wrote another blog post.
I did. I started to use config manager current branch into production at quite many customer sites. I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah.
And we run into a few issues where you have networks with high latency, you simply get an error when trying to start a deployment. So I wrote a blog post on how to fix when you get an error saying failed to find a valid network adapter. It all turned out to just need a little bit more time. So I added a script that delayed it 10 seconds.
Yeah, and that happens still from time to time.
Yeah.
We're not sure why. We did another fun thing.
Yeah, you did the first implementation ever of the image factory.
Yes, the image factory. We have two versions of it, one for Hyper-V and MDT and one for System Center Virtual Machine Manager. In this case, the customer running System Center Virtual Machine Manager. It's basically a script that creates virtual machines for each and every task sequence that is assigned to a reference image.
Yeah.
It distributes them across every cluster node you have, builds them, collects them, sysprep, capture, and put them in a folder. It's like watching a really boring movie, but it's fully automated. The latest version of that, which I didn't write a blog post, and I know you're going to hit me hard about this, but
only in the head, sir.
We used to use a technology using the KVP components inside, and that doesn't work on the latest version of Windows 10. So I need to figure out another way, and I did. And I discovered that there's a blog post about a PowerShell function called PS-ini, which means that I can load that, and then I can read the custom settings.ini file, and I can treat it as a hash table, which now means that I can build a VM, grab the GUID number, which is going to be this BIOS serial number, and then I can inject dynamically all those machines that has been created, so when they boot up, the custom settings.ini is updated. So it's like I'm using custom settings.ini as a flexible database. And the first time I did a demo for that to Peter and Jürgen at Trusek, and they were like, holy mother, can you do that?
Yep.
So that's pretty awesome. It's actually on GitHub, so if you want to download it, you can do it.
Yep.
We did that.
I know you were in Minneapolis also building data centers once again.
Yet another data center that was storage spaces, and the customer went from 4,500 IOPS to 800,000 IOPS, and they were like,
so 4,000, 800,000, that's like a difference.
You know the reason why we did this? The customer always thought that, it was slow, but it was working, right? A couple of months before that,
I guess they had a SAN before.
Yeah, they did. And we did an upgrade of MDT from one version to another. And that it recalculates all the hashes.
Yeah.
And it took them 3 days to do the upgrade.
Wow. Also drivers.
Not a lot of drivers, but it took 3 days to just rehash them. They had drivers for 3 computer models.
Wow.
And I said, maybe your SAN is a bit congested. So we did some measurement about that, and it was awful. I think they have a latency of like 45,000 milliseconds or something like that. The disk queue length, when it reaches 100, Windows becomes really slow. So we figured out that, and we replaced the SAN. It was like slightly faster. So that was pretty cool. And another big hit.
A shiny release was the Config Manager 1602.
Yes. And that contained some new features, didn't it?
I don't remember exactly 1602. I didn't do many implementation of that one, but it continued some of the improvements that were in 1511 that I like. For example, the WinP peer caching thing.
Yeah, and some of the things that was in preview for 1511 now suddenly was released.
Yeah.
But it was a stable release. We didn't have too much issues with it. We played with it. I know we did it on labs, and so that was pretty cool. So that was March.
That was March.
March, okay.
And then we have April.
April.
Yes.
It's not getting summer in Sweden at all, but at least it gets more sunny, and the snow is not that terrible to watch anymore.
I know you put together a blog post about updating BIOS during deployments.
Yeah, because we had a lot of customers that needed to do upgrades of the BIOS for Windows 10 deployments.
Yeah.
And I know you and I created a VB script.
Back in the days.
And I decided to shift that into using PowerShell instead. So now it's using PowerShell, and it slightly is easier to update for new models. We still use it.
What vendor did you support in that blog post?
We did HP. I did HP a couple of models, and I also did Dell, but I didn't do Lenovo because I didn't have any Lenovo machine at that time. Yeah. So it was Dell and HP.
But it's not rocket science to adopt that?
No, it's just block-based, so it's just adding the other models, and you define that if this is the version, then you need this version. So it was pretty easy. Windows Server 2016, technical preview 5.
Yeah, the code was ready, but I couldn't download it because I wasn't apparently trusted. I don't know.
I couldn't download it either. We did a summit, the second one that was basically Azure, but in May, things starts to happen.
Yeah, indeed.
We did MMS.
Yeah, and MMS, for those of you who haven't been there, this is by far the most shiny conference there is.
It's different. Number one, every morning starts with some kind of gathering. Here's the client track, and here's the server track.
Yeah, it's a bird of a feather session style.
Basically, everybody that is a speaker that is assigned to client track needs to be there very early in the morning.
7?
Like 7, which is crazy, but we need to be there. And for the server track, we also need to be there. And my problem is always that I'm assigned to both tracks, so I need to shift. Yeah, I need to clone myself or run between. We did that, and during MMS, which is in Minneapolis, Mall of America, we're going to be there again. Michael Niehaus released the bomb.
Yeah, a PowerShell version of MDT. So it's available on GitHub. You can play around with it. It's of course an early pre-release.
Yes,
but it's
and the
there.
Really cool thing, which I didn't know, he said that first you install MDT as usual, nothing fancy at all, and then you install the MDT PowerShell functionality on top of that. And it's like, okay, so is it running MDT or is it running? No, it's more of it's using MDT as a framework, but then they, long time ago, built in a function that gives them the ability for a Microsoft consultant services guy to add custom code.
Yeah.
Okay, you can do that. But the problem is that if you do an upgrade, then you overwrite the custom code. Yeah, but we created an extra folder, and I was like, "Where's that documented?" Well, we never documented that because we never thought about that. Yeah. So that's how they do it, and so that could be really cool. We also did installed. Windows Server 2016 TP5 because I did demos on that on MMS.
Yeah, we downloaded it during the conference because it was available then. Yeah, that was
crazy. And I did something else.
You did a blog post about getting Windows 10 to basically shut up during reference image builds.
Yeah, because there's one problem with both Windows 10 and Server 2016. Immediately, when they can reach out to internet, they go like, "Oh, I need to download updates." Which is fine. We're going to do download or updates. We're going to patch it. It's just that when you create a reference image and you say, I want to install the following applications before I want to do a Windows update. Randomly, Windows update goes like, well, fun updates. I'm going to do an update. Which means that some of the installer broke because there was a pending reboot suddenly.
Yeah, and we had a very similar issue recently. One of the later cumulative updates now in December started to make also some fun things happen with the reference image of Windows 10. It's starting to update, as usual, the built-in Windows 10 apps, and once again they forgot to test sysprep.
Yeah, so we need to block that again.
Yeah.
or point everything to our internal WSUS server, or you can. There's different ways to do that.
Yeah, two different ways. One is to just use a local WSUS server and simply restrict that VM from having internet access, and the second one is to use a registry key to basically disable the automatic updates.
Which is fine, because when you do an update of that, when you do a sysprep of that, that goes away anyway, or you're going to control it using configuration manager or group policies anyway, so that's fine. I did that. You did an improving the configuration manager in place upgrade task sequence.
Yes, I added in drivers to it, and I eventually also continued on that post and added in language packs that happened later that year.
And it's pretty smart. It's a smart method, and I like that. But we teach that in our classes. But you basically say that instead of just having one driver step, you go like, well, here's all the driver steps, but then we make a decision on make and model on them, and say if this is
model alias or something.
And that works perfectly fine. And I did something stupid.
You bought a car.
I bought a car, and
a red one.
A red one. It's a red Camaro 2015 with a big engine.
It doesn't have anything with age to do with it.
No, absolutely not.
No.
And there's a Camaro club in Sweden, right? And they said, you want to go to an airfield and do drag racing? And I was like, yeah, of course. Maybe I can win. I didn't. I lost in the first stage, but I do have a video of that. It was fun. It's great fun to do that, and it's an abandoned airfield in the middle of Sweden.
I'm pretty sure we can get hold of that video for
most likely
demonstration purposes.
Yes. We also did the new version of the OSD Geek Week.
Yes.
And I mean, we can compare different trainings, and I know that both of us like trainings, but the Geek Weeks are very, very different. It's hard to explain. Number one, it's an entire week. That means that most people, I would say everyone in the class, is dedicated. They are specialized in exactly what they do. We don't really have any average, I just want to take a training. So everybody is there for this particular purpose. And the amount of questions are massive. And we have a chance to go far and beyond supported and do some really cool stuff. I love the Geek Weeks. We also built another data center.
Yep, of course.
Yeah,
as we do.
As you do. It was the May data center.
So then we have June, and I remember you put together a nice post about performance in disk performance.
Yes, that is one of the biggest issues we have actually. Is that everybody assumes that you really have good performance. You assume you buy expensive SAN, right? And if it's expensive, it's going to perform really good. It turns out that that's not really the case. So we created a blog post that uses the old SQL I/O.
Now disk speed?
Yeah, now it's disk speed, but at that time it was SQL I/O that wraps around and spits out the performance. And when you run that against your SSD drive, it's like, you really get the performance. This is what it performs. And you run it against the SAN, it's like, there's something wrong here. Because it's awfully slow. It's like, yeah, that's what you have. Yeah. So measuring disk performance is crucial, both inside virtual machines and on physical drives. You did write a blog post on how to...
I did a WSUS one.
Yes.
Yeah, maintaining WSUS like a boss. And I know you have a version of that on your blog post as well. Basically making sure that you're re-indexing the tables, so it's fast. Do some backup of it. It's quite nice to have.
I don't do that. I should. I don't.
But it's nice.
It's nice.
But general house cleaning.
And we then clean out all the old stuff and the superseded patches, because it doesn't do that on its own. And that is actually something that is a problem. Everybody assumes that if you install something that uses a database like WSUS or SQL Server or any of the System Center products, a lot of customers believe that the database is somehow magically maintained.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
It's not. We did something else. We went to Norway to build another data center because...
Oh, I remember that trip because you had a coworker with you that didn't very much like flying at all.
Flying to Norway is different. It's because you fly to Norway with a big plane, okay? But when you're in Norway and fly from Oslo to one of the other locations.
Like a small bus with wings, really.
It's more like a Volkswagen with wings. You can see the pilot. They don't really have a door in between. Well, they have a door, but it's close. They don't really have a cart with coffee. There's someone actually walking around with a basket and say, "You want some coffee?"
So the co-pilot is a flask of coffee. That's
more or less. Now, the interesting thing is that Jürgen is extremely afraid of flying. So he tried to avoid this as much as he can. The problem is that this customer is located elsewhere in Norway, and the only way is to travel there is to either fly or you could go by car. It's just that we did the math of driving by car, and it would take us about 26 hours extra to get there, and about 26 hours extra to get home. So we said, you need to fly. Now, Jürgen has a method of flying. We're not going to do any details, but let's say this. Before we took off from Norway to go back, we were forced to stop in a location where they sell things you can drink.
Liquid stores.
Yes, liquid stores. And I was driving the rental car that was supposed to be returned, and Jürgen was sitting next to me, and he was kind of mixing the different drinks. That way
You had your own bartender, but you couldn't drink because you were driving.
I was driving.
Okay.
And it was a safe flight home. The next time I was going to the same customer, it was different. Same plane, same flight. It's just that it did take another step. So instead of flying directly from the customer to Oslo, we were forced to go to another airport. And it's like, that's going to be a short run, like 25 minutes. Yeah, just that was the most exciting 25 minutes in my life. I thought I would die. And the reason is that they never go up to altitude. They go to like 5,000 feet and fly between the mountains.
So that's like 10 meters?
That was
above the ground?
It felt like that. And I was like, I'm going to die in this airplane. And everybody else was most likely known to, they were having this experience before. I never had it. And my idea was that if Jürgen was on that flight, he would easily open the door and get out, or just kill the pilot. Either or. And I was happy he wasn't with me.
But there was something that was actually really interesting that month as well, and that was the release of Config Manager 1606, which has been one of the most widely adopted versions of Config Manager. Cool stuff, indeed.
Yes. We also did the System Center Triple Summit Day with the Kent person.
Yeah, that Danish person, Kent.
Yes, the Kent person.
He's pretty good in Config Manager.
Yeah, he's also from Denmark. He's the most non-Danish I actually know. I mean, you always get a picture of people from different countries. I mean, you look like a Swede, and I look like, I don't know, but Kent doesn't look Danish. He doesn't behave Danish. He's international. I like it.
It could be because it travels quite a bit.
Yeah, could be that.
Then we had July, of course. And I do have to admit, we were slackers in July. We did not do much.
No.
No blogs.
No blogs. We did two things basically.
We did a Geek Week in Redmond. We actually spent the week in Building 40 with 15, 16 students, give or take, doing advanced OSD stuff.
Yes, and we also have another trick. Every time we do in Redmond, in Building 40, since we know a lot of people working at Microsoft, we always try to invite people we know, and we never tell in advance who's going to be there. So the class is like, doing whatever we're going to do, and suddenly either Wally walk in or Niehaus walks in and they go like, oh, starstruck. And that's always fun to see. Yep. So that happens. We also did a live stream.
Yeah, we rented a studio in Seattle, Victoria Studios, and we did a live stream event with you and me, Niehaus, for a day. It was fun.
That was great fun. We're going to do it again, right?
If we can find our calendar times, yes. But the plan is to do it in March. We'll see how that goes.
I'll try to do it again. Yeah. So that was July, and that is summer in Sweden. At least one day in July is summer. The rest of July could be something else.
So August.
Time to work again.
Oh, the best things happen in August, but in this case it was the release of Windows 10 1607, the anniversary edition. It's been...
That is... in my opinion, the Windows 10 that everybody should have.
Yeah.
And I know we had discussions with customers. The customers like, oh, we're not sure we're going to upgrade. But yes, you really need to do that.
I rarely recommend customers to going live with the current branch version, the CP version. But
for that, do that.
1607 was like one of those rare exceptions where... This current branch, this non-stable release is basically better than the old stable one, which was 1511. That's been in CBB for quite some time.
Yeah, and we've been doing, you're a part of the insider preview, and as most techies are, but that build was really good.
Yeah.
I did a really weird blog post.
Yeah, remember that one.
Yeah. And it's something that you really should read if you haven't done it. It's about customizing Windows deployment, and you should think about that, because at this time, a lot of customers still had the idea of, we need to customize Windows, we need to modify Windows, we need to change the start layout, we need to do all these weird things, and a lot of debate on the internet was like, how do you do that? How can you pin that? And how can you modify that? Instead of spending a massive amount of time on doing something that is just about pinning an icon on the desktop, I think, and that is what I wrote, that customers should spend time on things like credential guard, on UEFI, on security, on identity theft, on all those features, because that actually means something for the business. Having an icon pinned on the right location on the desktop, that's something that user eventually will find.
As long as you follow these supported mechanisms around it, you're in pretty good shape. Yeah. And the very minute you started to do these hacks that you find out about, starting removing apps through PowerShell things, and
it's never tested by Microsoft. I know that Niehaus wrote a blog post on how to remove all the built-in applications, and I don't think he regretted, but he also have mentioned after that well, if you do that, we can't really guarantee that sysprep will work, because it's never a tested scenario. It's like patching, right? Everybody before Windows 10 was used to, you open the WCS console or the configuration manager console, and then you make a decision on what patches should be added. And then, because you don't want to break anything, right? Yeah. So don't add any more patches than necessary. The thing is that the only scenario that Microsoft ever has been tested is every patch in chronological order. And that's why they're changing that for Windows 10.
Yeah, and now also Windows 7 since October.
So here's the patch package, and here's what you get. Yeah. We did a vacation.
Well, we had vacation. I spent that vacation testing out the 1607 build. I wrote a blog post on how to create the Windows 10 1607 reference image, and good that post. is one of the posts that's been read the most through the entire year.
Didn't you almost die also? Didn't you run?
Oh, God, yeah. I signed up. It was Amy's fault, really. I signed up for a 5K race in New York, in Harlem, and tried to run it, and I had not practiced much.
So here's the question, right? So it was a 5K
kilometer, yes.
Oh, yes, okay. I know you have an Uber account. Why didn't you use that?
We took an Uber from the end of the race back to the hotel. Does that count?
Yeah, but you could take it from the beginning. So you can take the Uber to the destination and then back.
I will explain you the term race at some point to you, but today is not that day.
Uber race? Doesn't it work?
Anyway, okay. It was fun. It was fun. A few days after, it wasn't so fun.
I guess you and Amy did it together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a better runner than I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm. No details. We don't need to.
No.
Okay. Yeah. September.
September, yes.
We did a Ignite. We did Ignite.
We were at Ignite.
Yes.
And, I mean, it's only been 2 Ignites, Microsoft Ignite so far in the US, but this was an amazing uplift from last year. I really like this conference.
Yeah, I do too.
So we did a pre-conference. You, me, and Niehaus spent a day on presenting, and poor Amy were taking notes.
Yes, she's good at
answering questions.
Yeah, on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, be on Twitter. We also did 2 breakouts. 3? 2? I can't remember. A few breakouts. They were nice.
Yeah, and the cool thing about Ignite is that all those videos that usually used to go directly to Channel 9, but this year was different. They actually went to the YouTube channel instead directly. Yeah. So
it's like 24 hours after the session is done. It's like on YouTube. It's like, hey, this is great.
This is nice. So there's almost like 1,000 videos now that you can view afterwards. Yeah. Some are really, really good.
You did a blog post about the links and stuff we talked about during one of the sessions?
Yeah, if you go to my blog and you search for notes, this is where you find summaries and links and relevant resources from the sessions that we did at Ignite also.
Yeah, and I did actually find time to write the blog post about the image factory that has already been out for a while, but
the one you put in production earlier.
Yeah, exactly. But now we created.
So if you go to Deployment Money and you search for Image Factory, this is where you find that post. Yes,
it's true. Then we have October, and we don't have any summer in Sweden now.
Summer is gone.
Yeah, summer is gone like forever. But October is nice if you, for instance, go to Las Vegas, which we did because we did IT Dev Connections. Very shiny. Very nice.
It's a nice conference. I'm sorry, Rod Trent, if you're viewing this. I still hold MMS closer to my heart as like a higher, better conference, but IT Dev is pretty good.
Yes. So we actually extended our time for a reason, because the week after IT Dev Connections, we were in Berlin to do the operating system deployment Geek Week. And the conference ended on like Thursday, and we were supposed to be in Berlin on Monday.
Yeah.
And that means you can
stay in Vegas.
Yes. We had, my wife and I, because she actually tagged along, we had a marvelous day at the poolside. And this is the first time, the bartender people that walks around, pool guys and ladies go like, would you like to have a drink? And so, yeah, I would like to have Captain and Coke, absolutely. Would you like to have a large one? Yeah, I can do a large one. And it was, it was
like
huge.
A bucket?
It's like, yeah, it was a bucket. It's like, really? How much Captain do you have in this?
It's like a small football team.
Yeah. It took a while to drink it up. It was really good. We did that. We also did another thing. We launched Windows Server 2016 in Sweden.
Yeah, we did. That was October 4, together with Microsoft. Yes, indeed. That was a great conference. You did something odd also. You pimped a server.
This is a blog post I did many years back, but this was the most read blog post during that period of time. And it's about how to do an HP microserver, which is a really good server. It's a decent server. It's a proper server. It supports IPMI. It supports ILO. It supports fully out of band.
Right? It's good for like a media server or something.
It's one of those wife-approved equipments. It's you can even change the door to another color so it looks cute, which is wife-approved because now it looks cute and it's silent. But you can make it go faster by replacing the CPU inside. It doesn't have a fan, so you need to have a CPU that doesn't get too hot. But by changing the CPU and modifying some other parts, you can increase the performance 699%. And for some weird reason, that blog post was climbing up and everybody was reading it. So that was cool.
I'm just I run Plex on mine. It's great.
Yeah, works perfectly fine. You did another blog post.
I did. No, it was actually not me. It was Amy. She wrote about. It's on my blog, or our blog now.
Yeah.
She wrote a post on how to configure the final version of the NAT network.
Yeah, because they changed that.
Yeah.
Now it's 2 commands. You actually do first you set up networking as usual, and then you do NAT. But did you know this? Because we discovered this recently. We were building a data center and we needed a NAT device.
Yeah.
So we usually installed, routing and remote access. This time I said, maybe you don't need to install that. So we didn't install that. We just didn't install anything at all. So we have 2 network adapters, external and internal, and we just run the new NAT command.
Yeah.
And it works great.
Yeah, I've been running it for my demo machine. I got a new one this summer. I've been running it. I travel all over, airports, hotels.
Yeah.
And it's been working every single time, so I can still have my VMs isolated, but they still have network access. It's
but
fantastic.
You can also, and you can, besides using that, you can use it actually to, instead of putting up a router, you can do so we were goofing around, Marcus and me, and say, hey, that means I can do a nano server.
Yeah.
I can even have a Linux version of a firewall. So you put up a nano server, you don't need to join it to a domain or anything. You remote PowerShell into it, you create your NAT rules and your firewall rules, and go you have a very lightweight NAT router. And it works, and with all the rules set. So that was pretty cool.
That's nice. And then it is November.
It is November. We did a couple of things.
We did one thing we typically don't do, and that was working on the same customer basically week after each other.
Exactly, not at the same time, but the same customer. So you were there the first week, and I was there in Chicago, and I was there the other week in Chicago, and I also did the user group meeting in Chicago. That was cool.
Yeah.
And the reason why I did the second week is because you had another...
Maybe somebody that you know well double booked himself, maybe.
Yeah, I think I have a pretty good idea who that is. But that was a really cool thing.
Yeah, I went to Austin to help out building an infrastructure for a conference. We deployed 5,000 machines in 3 days. How about that?
And you did peer-to-peer, right?
We did peer-to-peering. So we had a config managed site server, we had a single distribution point, and we deployed 5,000 machines from that one. Would never have been possible without the peer-to-peer sharing.
And here's the thing. We both believe that peer-to-peer caching for operating system deployment, for patch management, for packet distribution, for anything is going to be crucial. It's going to be the only way to solve this. And the reason is this, it's very simple, right? So here's the patch. Here's the latest Windows 10 patch. It's 952 megs in size. That needs to go to, let's say... Everybody. That is 5,000 machines. Now, this week we have 4 of these patches because the first one was kind of bad and the second one contained something important. And, you can, I wouldn't say 4 in a week, but let's say 2 in a week. That's 952 plus 953 most likely, which is almost like 2 gigs that needs to go to 5,000 machine. You do the math and you realize that you're going to consume a lot of the bandwidth. So that was a good way to use peer-to-peer technology.
And it's interesting to see now also because now we are, Config Manager 1610 was just released and they added in peer caching now into that one, and you can clearly see that Microsoft is also investing in these technologies. For this customer, we used a third party because we needed one that was ready for production then.
Yes.
But I mean, since Microsoft is starting to get into the game also, I mean, this is coming big.
Yeah, we can see things like, I remember when the first time we heard about you can use branch cache, we were both like, well, that's never going to fly. It turns out that branch cache actually does fly, and it can be used. It's not peer-to-peer, but at least it's caching. And right now we're working with a customer, and I think they have 60 distribution points, and it's like, we don't want to have that anymore. Yeah. So peer-to-peer caching is going to be something you need. And there's going to be different technologies. We did that. That was cool.
Yeah, I did a blog post on just general config manager housekeeping, but user had a major release in November.
I did. And the thing is that, I mean, we've been developing code for so many times, and we always had this, I'm going to put this on a OneDrive, I'm going to synchronize with you.
FTP server or whatever.
Things like that. And a long time ago, I signed up for GitHub, but and in the beginning of the summer, in the end of the summer, I actually started moving everything to GitHub. And almost everything I ever done in code is now on GitHub. We even started to do public development. So hydration version 10, which is a PowerShell-based hydration kit. It's basically MDT without the UI, and everything is PowerShell-based together with XML file that drives everything. It's now publicly on GitHub, and we are 4 people in the team that is working with it to synchronize and check in, and it's lovely. So I did write a blog post that the bunny is now on GitHub. It was the most read blog post at that time, and now I have a bunch of followers. That was kind of cool. We also did something else.
We did Tech Days.
We did Tech Days
in Sweden.
In Sweden.
Conference. And most of those videos are available for on-demand viewing for free.
Yes, and we also made a decision to do them in English. So I think all of them that are recorded, I think all of them are actually in English instead of Swedish, and that was kind of cool. And on November 14th...
Oh, that was a good day.
That was a good day. And it's so funny, because it's weird, right? They released Microsoft Deployment Toolkit.
New version,
8443.
So that must mean the year 2084. The month 43.
We believe that at that time they changed the month thing differently. We think it could be like star date. Could be like, the...
Turn out it was the build number. So instead of doing like everybody else, do like a year and month, they did the build number.
Yeah, so this is the build number. And that's the latest version. So next time number will be higher. And we also know that they are going to continue developing MDT.
Yeah.
We don't know how long, but currently the last time we talked to the OSD team at Microsoft, they said, yeah, we're going to continue doing MDT because it still needs to be there. So that was a marvelous date.
Indeed.
Indeed.
And then we are here in December. Year 2016.
Yes.
I published a smaller hydration kit for config manager only, but it has a tweak to it, and it does both current branch and the technical preview branch, so you can actually select 2 different servers, and they will follow each.
And it also runs on Windows Server 2016 this time. Yes. And I created a blog post on something I did a long time ago, and that was the how to add information to a computer during operating system deployment using a custom tattoo step.
Yeah, that then can be inventoried and queried or whatever.
Yeah, because everything that you do it that way, when you do it correctly, I mean, write to the registry is fine, but this, it doesn't only write to the registry, it also writes to the WMI repository, which means that you can inventory. So, for instance, you can tattoo the machine and say, this is a part of support group 44, and this is a part of a production environment, or whatever you want to have, which then ends up in data in Configuration Manager, which then can be queried. You can create collection on it and stuff like that. Today, I actually did a summit in Stockholm because we're in a hotel room in Gothenburg right now.
Yeah, small videos.
Yeah, we did an SMB summit and it's pretty fun to do that. And we also did something weird that you're not supposed to do. We talked about the number of days we were traveling, and I said to Johan that, well, I have an app on my phone, and it actually tells you how many days you
how many hours you spend in an airplane.
And I spent 165 hours in an airplane this year. That means that you really need to find a way to work, because if you take a 40-hour work week, that means it's a month in an airplane. It's insane. And I think the math said I travel around the globe 18 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have about the same number of days as you have, but I have a slightly different strategy. When I'm flying, I'm out. I'm sleeping the entire flight.
Oh, yeah. And how many flights? I did 60.
I did 70, so I beat it by 10, and that feels good.
How many countries?
11.
Cities?
32.
Days?
Winning?
Yeah, you're winning. You're always winning. But we do travel a lot. And the fun thing about that, we are actually pretty good on how to squeeze in an office in nothing.
Yeah.
And every time, I know you because I've been in your hotel rooms and you've been in mine, it doesn't look like an ordinary hotel room. It looks like a...
It's a data center, but...
Yeah, I didn't do it this time, but usually I have my own Wi-Fi equipment and my own router, and the name of the network is ViaMonstra, ViaMonstra to go.
Yeah.
And every time you have trainings, people go like, I think I spent some, my room is close to you. Oh, how's that? Oh, I saw a ViaMonstra network. Yeah, that's
that's us.
That's us. Yeah. So you have the router, you have at least 1 or 2 NOC devices, and you have, how many laptops do you usually bring?
I reduced this trip. I only had 3.
I usually have between 2 and 3. In this time I have like 3. Have you ever been stopped when boarding a plane because your carry-on luggage is too heavy?
No, but I have got strange looks in security. It's like, okay, are these all yours, sir? But you're not selling computers, are you?
No. And you always have, the trays you need to have.
Yeah.
People go like, you open one tray and one more, and you end up with like 5 trays, and it's like, computers. You fill up the entire belt of just trays with all the laptops. And
I remember one time in traveling through Heathrow, I do that a lot, and the guy in the security line said, well, we have new equipment now, so you don't actually need to open your bag. You can just send it through. I was like,
no, I
yes,
can't.
I have to. Yes, I do. And he said, no, you can send it. So I did it very well.
Yeah, you need to open it. Yeah, exactly. It's too much.
They didn't test it on 3 machines.
I've been stopped once on one of the airlines. It's like, sir, your handbag is kind of heavy. No, it's not heavy. Yeah, it looks kind of heavy. No, it doesn't look like heavy. So he put it on a
scaler?
Yeah, a scaler, and it's like, it was heavy. But here's this dumb thing. So he said, you can't carry that on board because your handbag is too heavy.
So you can have a personal item.
Yeah. So I was forced to remove 2 of the laptops and hold them in my hand when I entered
but it's
the plane.
Obvious, Michael. Yeah. They weigh much less if you carry them in the left hand.
Absolutely. And then I put them back to put my bag. Yeah. So, but I'm following the rules because something I learned so far is that you don't argue with that kind of staff. Is like you don't argue with Homeland Security either. You just go like yes sir, no sir, yes sir. So it's easy. That's how you do it.
Yeah. So that's it. That's the highlights from the year 2016 and from both of us.
Yes, to all of you. We wish you a wonderful New Year's Eve and a great
fantastic,
awesome, shiny 2017.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.